What's up, everybody? Sports Card Gamble here. Today we're going to start a Prizm Parallel series where we're going to take a look at some of the most common Prizm Parallels and take a look at the pop counts for those. I will say that we're going to just be looking at the PSA 10s and the PSA 9s. Obviously, there's a whole lot more of those cards out there with Raw and Beckett and other grading companies. PSA is kind of the most prevalent one and the most tracked. We're just kind of, hoping to get a picture of the pop count and not all the details and, not be totally right, but just to kind of paint a picture of what we're looking at. So I'm going to stick to 2017-18, 2018-19, and 19-20. And then I'm only going to do the parallels that are in those three sets. They have continued to produce more and more parallels each year as we move on, just because they are printing so much of this stuff that they need to add more parallels, so everything is just not watered down. So I do appreciate you guys watching the video. If you would, please hit that like button and subscribe button. It really does help out. Like I said, this is going to be a 5-part series, so stay tuned for the other colors that we take a look at, and we will go ahead and get started. Today we're going to take a look at the Ruby Wave Prizms. So first off, we're going to go ahead and start with 2017-18 and take a look at Jason Tatum, who, by the way, just had a 50-point game and been playing great. His card stock will probably get a bump here in the playoffs. We'll see if they can actually make it in. So let's go ahead and pull up the pop counts for Tatum. If you look at the PSA 9s, 53 of those, and the PSA 10s, 103, still very low. I mean, we're looking at under 200 of the PSA 9s and 10s. Very low pop count here. In reference to the base, it's over 5,000 for the PSA 10s and 4,400 for the PSA 9. So big difference there. So just taking a look at Tatum's graph here, the 9s are, not very many sales of those. Again, there's only 53, just a few of those. So these have been going down a little bit, but again, just not a whole lot of data there to kind of really look at a trend there. If you look at the 10s, there's some peaks and valleys there, but overall, it's been kind of a steady increase, which is a good thing. And it just has to be due to the rarity. A lot of other cards of his are down, even with him playing well. His base is definitely down. With this card, being so few copies in the PSA 10 version, gonna be steadily increasing even through all the down times. If you take a look at Donovan Mitchell, kind of the same theme, except even lower. Now, I don't know if maybe Tatum has kind of gotten more shine. Maybe more cards have been sent in for Tatum, but I would imagine all the Donovan Mitchell stuff would be sent in as well, especially a rookie parallel. So his PSA 10s, we're looking at 63, and the PSA 9s, 42. Very low. If you take a look at the base and reference that, the PSA 10 is over 4,000. The PSA 9 is over 2,600. As you can see, he's been kind of trending down. Now, he has had some injury issues here recently. We'll see what happens here. They kind of do need to make a deep playoff run, really, to kind of have his value continue to go up, I think, just because he's not as popular as some of these other guys. It's tough. It's kind of like a Giannis. I think his playoff issues, not being able to go deep in playoffs, has really hurt his value, and I think that's going to be the same for Mitchell. If he can't really make deep playoff runs, people will just be like, oh, he's good in the regular season, but his team can never make it out of the West. But either way, not any crazy like drops or anything. It's been just kind of a slow decline, and I think the injury has a lot to do with that. Still a very extremely low pop count on this card. Now, 17 and 18, they weren't quite producing as much Prizm as they have been the last few years, so that goes into account. But again, we're going to look at 18, 19, and 19, 20 here, so we'll kind of see where those are at compared to this year. So on that note, let's go ahead and move on to 18-19. We will pull up the top guy there, Lucadonna. Obviously, we'll take a look at his graph here. So his Ruby Wave PSA 10s are at 272, and the PSA 9s are at 201. So again, I mean, with all the all the speculation of the high production of these cards in 18-19 when it really ramped up, the Ruby Wave Parallel has, I guess, essentially doubled just by the PSA. I mean, we're just referencing the PSA stuff here. So, I mean, I guess that is a lot, but when it already started out kind of low, then, it's not so bad. And especially in kind of retrospective to the amount of base that's out there, nearly 17,000 for the PSA 10s. So just a ton of those, multiple sales daily. I think it's under $1,000 for the PSA 10 now. The base PSA 9 is at 12,177. So again, you're approaching 30,000 there. And then if you just take a look at the PSA 9s and 10s of the Ruby Wave, still under 500. So nice to have that difference there, and definitely something to look at if you're ever considering buying the base, which I think most people are kind of falling off of that at this point. But still, there's probably still money to be made there, especially if he kind of explodes in the playoffs like he did last year. But we'll see. But I mean, my money would be going into PSA 9. If I couldn't afford the 10s, which are going to be high for these parallels, I would be putting my money into the PSA 9 parallels of these guys. So here on the Luka graph, it's kind of an interesting trend here. Again, not too many PSA 9 sales. It's kind of weird that you would expect more because there's only, there's not that much less of the PSA 9s than the PSA 10s. But still, that's interesting. I bet you that's when the card was probably added to market movers, actually, as I think about it. I don't know. You would just expect more 9 sales before that. But anyways, it has been trending down, which is kind of interesting. The 10 has been going up, and there's less of the 9. So that is kind of interesting that it's actually trending down. But I think that's just overall Luka. I guess probably people are more interested in the 10, and with his stuff kind of overall trending down, I think maybe people are just trying to be safer and get the 10, and why it's lower, I'm not sure. But anyways, just kind of interesting there. Still though, I think it's the card you want over the base. So we'll take a look at Trey's graph here. If we take a look at the PSA 10 Ruby Wave, that's 211, and the 9s are 200. So pretty much the same there, and kind of right in line with Luka, a little bit more. You kind of see that, I guess, with 17-18, how Tatum, who's kind of the bigger superstar out of the class, his had a little bit more. So I'm not sure if there's more his get sent in, but you just have to expect that those guys are both, all these guys are hot young rookies that are all going to get sent in. But anyway, still kind of the same theme there, pretty low, under 500 again. And if you just reference the base Trey rookie cards, PSA 10s are at 9,376 and the 9s are at 9,561. So much less on the base for the Treys. I can't really give you an answer on why that is compared to the Luka base, but that just is what it is. All right, so Trey's graph here. Now, this is actually kind of interesting because both his 9s and 10s have an increase. Now, you kind of think of Trey overall as his stuff that has dropped a whole lot, but here we can see that these rarer parallels of his rookie card, especially the Ruby Wave, has been trending up. A good amount of sales here, and pretty good data. Some peaks and valleys, but just a nice trend line heading straight up. So nice card to invest in, and still pretty affordable for PSA 10 and 9. All right, so we'll take a look at 1920. 1920, you have to imagine it's going to rise some, but right now, I mean, we're kind of right in line with how it was last year. Just a slight increase at this moment with 319 PSA 10s and 236 PSA 9s for the Ruby Wave of Zion. If you reference his base, which is getting extremely high at this point, we're looking at 17,419 PSA 10s, 13,743 PSA 9s. So if you do the math there, obviously that's over 30,000 just PSA 9s and 10s. That does not include 8s. That does not include all the raw copies out there. That does not include all the BGS, all the everything else, SGC. Tons of copies of this base card out there. The prices have really dropped on these base cards. There's just so many out there. So the demand obviously has not been as hot as it was last year. And with that demand falling, these pop counts are hurting themselves as far as value goes, and not really hurting Panini or anybody. I mean, people are going to be buying that regardless of it, regardless of the price. All right, so Zion's graph here is another kind of positive trend. The 9s have been pretty kind of break even, but with a nice little small increase there, which is pretty good because, overall Zion's been down, and obviously all the speculation of the print runs with the base, it's nice to kind of still see that these parallels are kind of holding their own, and they really should be. There was just a whole lot of hype for base cards through the whole boom and everything. That was kind of like I think everybody was talking about them because they're easy to track, that sort of thing. So like new people were coming in, buying the base, but the parallels are where you really want to be in the long term. If you hold the stuff long term, I mean, you can flip the base in the short term and be fine. Just in 20 years, who knows if there's 30,000 people that are going to want a Zion base card, a PSA 10 or 9. I doubt it. You really want a card that's going to be like here, where you only got 300 of them. Big difference between 30,000, but again, this card's been trending up, still affordable in the 10 and 9 in my opinion, and a card that you might target if you're looking at Zion stuff. But anyways, we'll go ahead and pull up a John Marantz graph here. Now he's a little bit lower, which is kind of the theme that we see here. The second kind of top guy from the class has a lower pop count for whatever reason, but still not too high here. 273 PSA 10s and 224 PSA 9s. Now, if you reference the base for Ja Morant, a little bit less than Zion, but still pretty high. 15,913 PSA 10s and 12,046 PSA 9s. So very high pop count there. Ja Morant's overall stock has really fallen. You know, he hasn't been like, you know, exploding with crazy flashy plays as much this year, but he's been a great player. So I mean, you would expect that it wouldn't have fallen as much, but I just think, you know, the base stuff has really been an issue. Take a look at the jaw graph, and it's just sad and disappointing, honestly, because I like Jaw a lot. He's kind of my favorite guy out of that class, but all his stuff has been going down, and that's kind of like a sharp down, really. Some really high points up there, which were probably unsustainable at the time, but just a sharp trend line going down. Now, I think his long-term value is going to be good, but it is concerning. I don't know, though. I'm not as worried about him. I think he'll rebound. It's just it's probably a good time to buy him, honestly. If you believe in him, if you're hyping him up like me, I should be probably just buying a bunch of him, but we'll see. Now, if I was buying, I would be buying these parallels, and like I said, if you can't afford the PSA 10s of these parallels, I think you're fine with the 9s. I mean, if these guys go on and have long careers, you take a look at I mean, I know it's probably not going to be a LeBron James type career, but if you take a look at like a parallel of LeBron James, you know, people aren't too worried if it's in a 9 or not. So I mean, it's just getting that great player and a nice rarer rookie card of them, which is what's important. So I think the 9s are great buys for the parallels. If it's the base, if you're really going to buy the base, I would stick to the 10s. But anyways, guys, I do appreciate you watching this episode 1 of this series here. As you can see, the Ruby Wade parallels are quite rare still, even with all the high printing that's been going on the last couple of years. We'll see what it turns out to be in the 2020-2021 season once PSA opens up, and you know, that's going to be a while away though, so we're not going to have a clear picture on that for a while. But I do appreciate you watching this video. Like I said, we will be back with another Prizm parallel here in the next couple days and take a look at the pop counts and the graphs of some of the other popular Prizm parallels. I do have my subscriber giveaway still going on, so definitely check that out. I will leave a link in the description. I'll leave a comment below with the parallels that you like or that you want to see, or your thoughts on what's going on here, and what you think about some of these pop counts. Otherwise, guys, have a great night, and I'll see you in the next video.